Welcome, dear subscribers and curious listeners of my channel. Today we'll talk about details in the Harry Potter universe that not everyone notices, but which can raise questions and spark debates among fans. I've gathered most interesting inconsistencies and oddities that J.K. Rowling left in her books. I hope you find it interesting. Number 1. The exceptional portal. In The Goblet of Fire, we encounter magical portals that allow instant travel to another location. However, one of these portals, the one used by the Triwizard Cup, works in a way that completely contradicts how portals function in other parts of the series. According to Mr. Weasley's explanation, magical portals are supposed to activate at a predetermined time, not immediately when touched. This rule is followed in other cases, such as the portal Dumbledore creates for Harry in the Order of the Phoenix. But the cup, it turns out, transports immediately upon contact. This contradicts the general rules, and if such portals really exist, why were they never used again? Number 2. The Forgotten Servant. When Sirius Black escapes from Azkaban and starts searching for Peter Pettigrew, the question arises, why doesn't he use Kreacher, his house elf, who could have helped him? Kreacher cannot disobey his master's orders and, importantly, can apparate even within Hogwarts. Why not take advantage of this? Logic suggests that Rowling hadn't created Kreacher as a character at that point. Perhaps it also would have been too boring for the plot. Number 3. The Chamber of Secrets and the Ghosts. How is it that for 1,000 years no one found the Chamber of Secrets at Hogwarts when ghosts who can pass through walls could have helped? For example, nearly headless Nick could have certainly told them about it, but for some reason no ghost participated in the search for the room. The question remains unanswered, and perhaps Rowling just didn't want to reveal this detail. Number 4. How to heal a ghost. When nearly headless. Nick became a victim of the basilisk. He couldn't die a second time since he was already a ghost. However, he was healed with a mandrake potion. How exactly this works remains a mystery. How can medicine be applied to a bodiless entity? It's an interesting concept that Rowling doesn't fully explain, but it adds magic to the world of Harry Potter. Number 5. The Philosopher's Stone and its use. Nicolas Flamel created the Philosopher's Stone, an incredibly powerful artifact that grants immortality. But interestingly, he and his wife used the stone solely for themselves. Why didn't Flamel use his discovery for the good of others, or sell the elixir of life? Attempts to replicate his success or steal the stone must have happened, and perhaps he could have become rich and famous. This is a mystery that doesn't have an easy answer. Number 6. Coincidence? I don't think so. Severus Snape is one of the most enigmatic figures in Harry Potter. His role constantly shifts between friend and foe, making him a character full of contradictions. One of the most puzzling aspects of Snape's story is his relationship with Voldemort. As one of the most powerful wizards at Hogwarts, how could Snape, who was deeply involved with the Dark Lord, be unaware of the true identity of Voldemort's followers? This is especially strange, considering that Voldemort was already known to be a significant force in the magical world. Even as Snape played a role in attempting to thwart Voldemort's rise, he continued working in service to him. I don't think I could ever understand everything that was in his head, Snape says in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. But one thing I know for sure, it would probably have been easier for me to become a killer than to be friends with someone like him. This statement raises many questions. Why would someone as skilled and powerful as Snape stay on the sidelines in such a high-stakes war? Was his role truly as complex as it seemed, playing a double game, or was there something more to his actions that no one, not even Dumbledore, fully understood? Could Snape truly have been as conflicted as he appeared, or was he hiding something even darker? The mystery of Snape's loyalty and his role in the war against Voldemort remains one of the most compelling puzzles in the series. Number 7. Special abilities with bloody consequences. Throughout the series, a select few characters, like Harry, possess the ability to perceive magical events and sense things that others cannot. This gift allows them to see the invisible, like the Thestrals, or feel a deep sense of dread when something important is about to happen. Harry's ability to sense these ominous feelings becomes more pronounced as he grows. "I think I need to follow my instincts," Harry says in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. "I always feel something's wrong when something important is about to happen." This sensitivity is unique, but it begs the question, why does Harry and only a few others have such heightened perceptions of the magical world? The rarity of these abilities is striking. We rarely see others in the wizarding world with the same supernatural connection. Why are there so few who can feel these unseen forces while most wizards remain oblivious? Could it be that the magical world is designed to remain hidden from the majority? Or perhaps these abilities are the result of an ancient magic selectively passed down, giving only a few the power to see beyond the ordinary world? The mystery of why certain individuals are chosen to perceive such magic remains one of the series' most intriguing questions. Number 8. Beyond the school. Hogwarts often feels like the very heart of the wizarding world, a magical kingdom in itself. But throughout the series, the story never fully explains what's happening in the wider world of magic. We hear about magical events outside of the school like the Quidditch World Cup, but these are fleeting glimpses for the most part. The focus is on the students within the walls of Hogwarts, leaving the rest of the magical world shrouded in mystery. Why is so little attention given to the broader wizarding community beyond the school? The Quidditch World Cup, it's not the kind of place where we all sit together as old friends, Ron whispers in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. His comment highlights just how much more there is to the wizarding world than Hogwarts. The Quidditch World Cup, a huge event that attracts thousands of witches and wizards, is just one of the rare moments where we see a peek into the magical world outside the school. Yet even then, the event itself is filled with secrecy and danger, creating an atmosphere of tension and discomfort. The wider world of magic feels distant, its depth unexplored. This raises an interesting question. If there are such grand and important events happening outside the confines of Hogwarts, why is so little shared with the students? Could it be that the magical world is intentionally kept hidden, operating in the shadows to remain undetected by muggles? It's as though everything in the wizarding world is carefully controlled, and Hogwarts serves as both a sanctuary and a barrier, keeping the larger, potentially more chaotic world at arm's length. If magic were to spill into the open, would it disrupt the balance between the magical and non-magical worlds? Perhaps the silence about life outside Hogwarts is a deliberate choice to maintain that separation. Number 9. Where are all the people in Harry Potter? In the magical world of Harry Potter, there are times when the very people who are supposed to be present seem to disappear, as if they never existed. This eerie quality is especially evident when the characters venture into spaces or events where normal people aren't allowed to go. There are moments when a character simply vanishes and the world around them seems to warp, bending reality itself to hide important figures or happenings. It's as if the very fabric of time and space can be manipulated to conceal things from the ordinary world. Dumbledore said we need to hide, but if we follow him, we'll be far away, where there's nothing, Ron comments in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. His words hint at the invisible lines of magic that exist between the wizarding world and the non-magical one. For all the wonders and dangers magic brings, it also allows wizards to disappear from sight, hiding not just themselves, but entire events. This is seen in the way certain magical spaces, like the Room of Requirement, shift and vanish when no one is looking, making it impossible for muggles to stumble upon them. This leads to the larger question. If magic can hide people and places so effectively, how does it manage to shield such important figures and occurrences from ordinary eyes? The hidden world of magic isn't just about secret locations, but about the very nature of reality itself being altered. It's as though the boundaries between the magical and muggle worlds are purposefully kept hidden, ensuring that only those with magical knowledge can truly see what lies beneath the surface. The most intriguing part is that these vanishings aren't just about physical disappearance. In some ways, the magic in the wizarding world erases things from memory. Characters like Harry, Ron, and Hermione may be experiencing something life-altering, but the rest of the world doesn't even notice. The Ministry of Magic, for instance, goes to great lengths to ensure that certain events, like the return of Voldemort, are kept under wraps. The question remains, how is it that such vast, impactful moments can be hidden so well? Number 10, magical rules. Why do they exist? In the magical world of Harry Potter, rules are an inescapable part of life. Wizards and witches are capable of extraordinary feats, yet they are bound by strict laws that govern their powers. One of the most notable is the ban on using magic in front of muggles. The Ministry of Magic insists on this rule for the protection of the magical community, yet it's clear that many wizards break or bypass these laws with ease. They seem to find ways around the rules, whether through secrecy or clever manipulation of magical loopholes. Professor Dumbledore always said that it's important to obey magical laws, Harry recalls in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Even if they seem pointless, the idea is simple. Wizards, despite their immense power, must follow the rules. But why? Why, when they can alter reality with a flick of a wand, do they allow these laws to restrict them? Is there a deeper reason why they, who have the ability to reshape the world, adhere to such seemingly mundane rules? One example is the prohibition on using magic in the presence of muggles. Although wizards could easily perform magic undetected, they are still expected to follow this rule. The Ministry enforces it rigorously, and yet many wizards find ways to circumvent it. Take Fred and George Weasley, for example. They openly flout the rules with their joke shop, selling magical products to muggles without concern for the consequences. But, despite their rebellious nature, they never entirely escape the law, which suggests that no matter how powerful a wizard is, the system has control. Perhaps the key question is not why the laws exist, but why they seem to limit even the most powerful magicians. Can magic truly be controlled by such rules? Is the nature of wizardry so complex that even the most powerful wizards can't completely ignore the constraints placed on them? Magic, as Dumbledore implies, isn't just about power, it's about responsibility. Wizards may have the ability to bend the fabric of reality, but they must also respect the rules that govern their world. In the end, no matter how great their magic, wizards are still bound by the laws of their own making. Number 11. Magic and its strange limitations. In the magical world of Harry Potter, magic often seems limitless, able to solve almost any problem. But there are undeniable limits, and sometimes they don't make sense. Take the famous curse of death, for example. Wizards have incredible powers, yet they can't defeat death itself, or even create a way to prevent its inevitability. Dumbledore, one of the greatest wizards of all time, insists that death is the one thing even magic cannot conquer. Man who tries to cheat death is doomed to failure, Dumbledore says in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Despite all the powerful spells, potions, and magical artifacts at the wizard's disposal, death remains an unshakable force. It's as if the magical world, with all its wonders, still cannot escape this one truth, even for someone like Dumbledore Teast, who has mastered the deepest forms of magic. Death is an immovable barrier. Why then is death the one thing magic cannot overcome? Some believe it's part of a larger magical balance, a force that keeps the world from tipping into chaos. The idea that death is an inevitable force and that no magic can overcome it adds a deep layer of tragedy to the story. Perhaps it's not that magic can't conquer death, but that to do so would bring irreversible consequences, something that wizards and witches must never tamper with. Voldemort, obsessed with immortality, sought out the Philosopher's Stone, hoping to extend his life indefinitely. Despite his immense magical power, he couldn't prevent death's reach. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Dumbledore explains how death must be accepted, not feared or cheated. To truly live, he says, we must embrace death as a part of life. The magic in the wizarding world may be vast, but it cannot defy the natural order. Death is the one mystery even the most powerful wizards cannot unravel. Number 12. The logic of magical objects. Magical objects in the Harry Potter series often seem like the key to ultimate power, yet they're frequently more dangerous and powerful than their owners. Take the wands, for instance. The wand, considered an essential part of a wizard's magic, doesn't guarantee its wielder invincibility. In fact, it's not the wielder who decides what the wand will do, but the wand itself. Harry's wand, for example, was crucial in his defeat of Voldemort. However, it couldn't make him unbeatable. Don't forget, Harry, that the wand is not just an object. It's magic. It's a connection between you and the universe, says Mr. Ollivander in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. The connection between the wand and its owner is much more complex than just wielding it. Each wand has its own identity, and it chooses its owner, as seen when Harry's wand rebelled against Draco's. Why then does a magical object like a wand, something so powerful it can guarantee victory in the fight against evil? The wand itself seems to change its allegiance, favouring certain wizards over others. This is why Harry's wand didn't work as effectively for others. It's not simply a matter of who holds it, it's about the deeper, almost mystical connection between the wizard and the wand. As Harry learned, even powerful objects have limitations. The wand isn't the only magical object with its own will. The Philosopher's Stone, which grants immortality, becomes a dangerous object that ultimately destroys itself rather than fall into the wrong hands. The magic in these objects isn't just about power, it's a force that is shaped by something beyond the user's control. This underlying reason behind the power of magical objects remains one of the great mysteries of the wizarding world. The wands, the stone, and other artifacts are powerful, but also unpredictable, making the magic in them not a guarantee of control, but a puzzle to solve. Number 13. The magical world and muggles. In the magical world of Harry Potter, the existence of muggles, or non-magical people, is central to the plot. Yet there's a peculiar paradox that defines the relationship between wizards and muggles. Despite the immense magical power at their disposal, wizards, as a society, choose to remain largely detached from muggle affairs. In fact, they often actively avoid direct intervention in muggle life. This raises a host of intriguing moral and philosophical questions about the nature of power, responsibility, and societal boundaries. One of the central figures in this debate is Albus Dumbledore, the wise and revered headmaster of Hogwarts. He makes it clear that wizards cannot simply interfere with the lives of muggles despite their magical superiority. In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Dumbledore explains to Harry, "We cannot simply interfere in their world. Muggles must learn to live their way." This statement reflects a deeper belief in the importance of non-interference and the respect for Muggle autonomy, despite the seeming imbalance of power between the two worlds. This idea becomes even more perplexing when we consider the vast capabilities of magic. Wizards, with their ability to heal, solve problems, and even manipulate time, could, in theory, alleviate many of the world's most pressing issues, from poverty and disease to conflict and environmental destruction. Yet magic is never used for such broad-scale interventions in the Muggle world. Instead, wizards keep to their own communities, separated by the very barrier that makes them invisible to Muggles. The Ministry of Magic, the governing body of the wizarding world, enforces strict laws designed to prevent magical exposure to Muggles, a policy encapsulated in the idea of the Statute of Secrecy. The law is meant to ensure that Muggles remain unaware of the existence of magic, and in doing so, it maintains the delicate balance between the two societies. Wizards, it seems, fear the potential chaos that would arise if Muggles were to discover their existence. They believe that the revelation of magic would destabilize both worlds, despite the fact that magic in the hands of capable wizards could easily be used to address many of the problems Muggles face. This fear of Muggle interference isn't a new phenomenon. From the very beginning of the series, the wizarding world has been cautious about revealing their secrets. In Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Harry learns that his parents were murdered by a dark wizard, and yet he is kept in the dark about the true nature of his abilities and his importance in the wizarding world. Throughout his childhood, Harry is shielded from the magical world, and even when he finally learns about his true heritage, there is a reluctance to fully explain the depth of his power and the extent to which the wizarding world could change the course of Muggle history. One of the most prominent examples of this comes in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, when Harry learns about the dark wizard Voldemort's rise to power. Despite the danger Voldemort presents to both wizards and Muggles, the wizarding world is hesitant to openly address the threat in a way that might involve Muggles directly. Instead, the battle against Voldemort remains confined within the wizarding community. The Ministry of Magic, preoccupied with maintaining its own power, often operates in secret, while the larger Muggle world remains largely ignorant of the true threat. The question of why wizards don't use their power to improve Muggle lives is further complicated by the stark divide between the two societies. There are, of course, instances of wizards helping Muggles in small ways, such as when Hermione Granger uses her magical abilities to help Muggle-born witches and wizards adapt to the magical world. Yet these acts of kindness are the exception, not the rule. The larger magical society is defined by its reluctance to engage with the non-magical world on anything but a limited, controlled basis. This divide becomes particularly apparent in the way wizards perceive Muggles. There is a certain level of disdain for Muggles that pervades the magical community, even among the most well-meaning wizards. For example, the Malfoy family, with their deep-rooted belief in wizarding superiority, openly expressed disdain for Muggles and Muggle-born wizards, calling them mudbloods. This belief in the inherent superiority of magical bloodlines is not an isolated sentiment. It is shared by many wizards who feel that Muggles are beneath them. In this sense, the magical community's reluctance to help Muggles is also tied to an elitist view that devalues the non-magical population. However, it is not just the fear of destabilizing the world or the elitism that drives the wizards' separation from Muggles. There is also a deep philosophical belief in the necessity of maintaining boundaries between the two worlds. Wizards, as exemplified by Dumbledore, believe that Muggles should be allowed to live their lives without interference from magic. This belief in autonomy, while noble, comes at the cost of ignoring the potential benefits of magical intervention in Muggle society. By refusing to use their powers for the greater good of Muggles, wizards are in many ways choosing to allow suffering and injustice to persist despite their ability to remedy it. This moral dilemma is highlighted in the way wizards treat the magical creatures that exist in their world. In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, for instance, we see the way wizards deal with magical creatures like house elves, centaurs and werewolves. While some wizards, like Hermione, advocate for the rights of magical creatures, the majority of the wizarding community either ignores or mistreats these beings, seeing them as lesser or even expendable. This echoes the way Muggles are treated by wizards. On the one hand, there is a belief in non-interference, but on the other hand, there is a pervasive sense of superiority that leads to the marginalization of those who are seen as different. Number 14. Mysteries of magical creatures. The world of Harry Potter is filled with creatures so fantastical and strange that they often leave us questioning their true nature and purpose. While the magical world is rich with mystery, there are some aspects of these creatures that seem to defy logic or remain shrouded in enigma, almost as if the narrative deliberately leaves certain things unsaid. One such creature is the phoenix, a magnificent bird with the unique ability to rise from its own ashes, reborn again and again. This creature is not only a symbol of immortality and renewal, but it also plays a pivotal role in the life of Harry Potter, particularly in the support of Dumbledore and his cause. Yet despite its grandiose nature, the Phoenix raises questions. Why does it choose to assist Dumbledore and Harry? Why, in a world so full of magic, is there no widespread use of such a powerful being? It's a mystery that lingers, and its complexity is a reflection of the many layers of magic in J.K. Rowling's world. The Phoenix's role in the Harry Potter series is not merely as a companion to Dumbledore or as a symbol of hope, though these qualities are certainly important. It first appears to Harry in the form of Fawkes, Dumbledore's personal phoenix. Fawkes is no ordinary bird. His magical abilities are both wondrous and baffling. He has the power to heal with his tears, as evidenced when he saves Harry during the battle with the basilisk in the Chamber of Secrets. His tears, capable of healing even the most fatal injuries, suggest a deep, almost divine quality to his magic. He also plays a crucial role in the final battle against Lord Voldemort in the Order of the Phoenix, when he provides Harry with the Sword of Gryffindor to defeat the dark forces. Yet despite these extraordinary powers, Fawkes's use seems limited. After all, if a creature possesses such healing abilities, why do we not see it used more broadly? Why is it not used to cure more widespread illnesses or assist in other matters of great importance? The answer lies in the symbolism of the phoenix itself. The phoenix is not merely a magical creature, it is a symbol of resurrection and eternal life, a concept that transcends the physical realm. In the Harry Potter universe, Fawkes is often associated with Dumbledore, the wise and morally steadfast mentor to Harry. Dumbledore's connection with the Phoenix hints at a deeper, almost metaphysical relationship. It is not simply that Fawkes can perform extraordinary feats, it is that Fawkes represents the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. This is a theme that runs throughout the series, particularly in the story of Harry himself. Harry's journey mirrors the idea of rebirth, especially in the moments when he faces death. In the Deathly Hallows, Harry comes to terms with his own mortality, and it is in this moment of self-realization that he finds himself capable of defeating Voldemort, the ultimate force of death. The Phoenix, in this sense, serves as a reflection of Harry's own transformation, a guide that leads him from death back into life. But this transformation is not without its price, and this is where the strange nature of the phoenix's powers comes into play. Despite the fact that the phoenix can heal with its tears, it is rarely seen performing this task on a grand scale. This raises a question. If Fawkes possesses such potent healing abilities, why is it not used to heal larger-scale injuries or disease? The lack of widespread use could be attributed to the nature of the phoenix's magic. Fawkes's tears seem to work on a deeply personal level, almost as though they are intended for those who are personally connected to the phoenix. When Harry is injured by the basilisk in the Chamber of Secrets, it is Fawkes's tears that save him, but it is also the deep bond Harry shares with Dumbledore that allows Fawkes to intervene. The phoenix, in a sense, acts as a protector of the chosen few, those who are connected to the greater mysteries of the wizarding world. This connection between the phoenix and its chosen recipients is not just about magical power, but also about the deeper emotional bonds that exist between them. Fawkes, like Dumbledore, is not a creature that simply acts on impulse. It is a creature of patience and purpose. The phoenix's actions are also deeply tied to the idea of loyalty and choice. In the Order of the Phoenix, Fawkes demonstrates his loyalty to Dumbledore when he sings in mourning after the loss of the headmaster, and his loyalty is proven again when he aids Harry in the battle against Voldemort's forces. The symbolism is striking. The phoenix, though powerful, is not an instrument of war or vengeance. It is a creature that chooses its allies carefully, just as Dumbledore does. Fawkes's help is not freely given to everyone. It is offered only to those who are worthy or connected to the greater good. This connection of loyalty and choice speaks to the larger themes in Harry Potter, where the characters' choices define their paths and, in some cases, their fates. Fawkes's involvement in the story underscores the importance of standing by one's allies and committing to a cause that transcends individual desires. His powers are not for personal gain, but for the betterment of those who are aligned with goodness and truth. Number 15, the story with multiple prophecies. One of the most intriguing yet perplexing elements of the Harry Potter series is the prophecy that shapes much of Harry's fate. Throughout the books, the prophecy remains an enigma, shrouded in secrecy, and its delayed revelation raises more questions than it answers. The prophecy, which supposedly foretells the battle between Harry Potter and Voldemort, plays a pivotal role in the final outcome of the story. Yet there's something unsettling about how it functions within the White narrative. Its significance, the secrecy surrounding it, and the way it shifts the course of events all contribute to a sense of confusion and even frustration for both the characters and the readers. The prophecy itself, delivered by Sybil Trelawney, is cryptic, and for much of the series, the characters cannot fully comprehend its implications. The prophecy states that the one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches, born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the 7th month dies. At first glance, this seems to suggest that Harry is the one destined to defeat Voldemort. However, the reality is far more complicated. The fact that the prophecy does not specify how this victory will occur, or what exact role Harry must play, adds layers of uncertainty to the entire conflict. What makes the prophecy particularly frustrating is the decision of Dumbledore to keep it a secret from Harry for so long. Throughout the series, Dumbledore is portrayed as a wise and all-knowing figure, but in this case, his reluctance to share the full prophecy with Harry seems at odds with his usual transparency. Even when Harry is old enough to understand the gravity of the situation, Dumbledore hesitates to explain everything. In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Dumbledore finally confides in Harry, saying, "You must know this, Harry. but I cannot tell you everything. It is too dangerous." This cryptic statement leaves the reader wondering why such a crucial piece of information was withheld, and more importantly, why Dumbledore felt that Harry should not know his own fate. The secrecy surrounding the prophecy is one of the most puzzling elements of the plot, as it seems to contradict Dumbledore's usual belief in the importance of sharing knowledge. When the prophecy is eventually revealed, its meaning is still far from clear. Harry learns that the prophecy specifically mentions him and Voldemort as the two who are connected in an unbreakable bond, but the exact nature of that bond is never fully explained. The prophecy states that Voldemort will mark Harry as his equal, but it also suggests that Harry's defeat of Voldemort is not a certainty. In fact, the prophecy's ambiguity leads to a series of unintended consequences, including Voldemort's decision to try to kill Harry when he was just a baby. The prophecy, rather than offering a clear path to victory, ends up making the battle between Harry and Voldemort even more convoluted. This uncertainty is not only a source of tension within the story, but also adds to the sense that the prophecy may not be as straightforward as it appears. One of the most confounding aspects of the prophecy is the fact that it is essentially a self-fulfilling prophecy. Voldemort's attempt to kill Harry, based on his interpretation of the prophecy, sets in motion the events that lead to Harry's survival and eventual victory. By trying to prevent the prophecy from coming true, Voldemort inadvertently makes it more likely that it will. This paradox is at the heart of the series and reflects one of the central themes of the books, the idea that choices, rather than fate or prophecy, define one's destiny. The prophecy itself may suggest that Harry is destined to defeat Voldemort, but it is ultimately Harry's choices, particularly his willingness to sacrifice himself for the greater good, that make him victorious. Another layer of complexity is added when it is revealed that the prophecy could have referred to another child, Neville Longbottom. The prophecy, according to Trelawney, spoke of a child born to parents who had defied Voldemort 3 times. While it is true that Harry was the child who survived Voldemort's curse, the prophecy's wording is not specific enough to rule out Neville as the potential savior. This revelation introduces the possibility that Harry's role in the defeat of Voldemort was not as predetermined as it seems. The fact that both Harry and Neville are seen as potential candidates for the prophecy's fulfillment suggests that fate is not as fixed as one might think. Ultimately, it is Voldemort's decision to mark Harry as his equal that seals his fate, but it could have just as easily been Neville who fulfilled the prophecy. In addition to its ambiguity, the prophecy also raises questions about the nature of destiny and free will. If the prophecy is to be believed, Harry's future is already set in motion, and his role in the defeat of Voldemort is inevitable. But as the series progresses, it becomes clear that Harry's ability to make his own choices is what truly defines his destiny. The prophecy may have laid the groundwork for the final battle, but it is Harry's choices, his courage, and his willingness to fight for what is right that determine the outcome. This theme of choice versus destiny is a central one in the series, and the prophecy serves as a vehicle for exploring this tension. Number 16, the Deathly Hallows, Legend or Reality. The Deathly Hallows, 3 ancient magical artifacts, each with the power to alter the course of life and death. The Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and the Invisibility Cloak together forming the fabled gifts of death. They are legendary and feared, symbols of ultimate power that seem too potent to be left lying around in the annals of history. Yet the story behind these relics is not only puzzling, but also leaves one to wonder. Why did the wizarding world ever allow such dangerous and powerful objects to exist in the first place? More intriguing still is how these objects, despite their immense power, were left in the shadows of legend, slipping through time with only vague whispers of their existence. The world of Harry Potter, brimming with magical complexity, contains no shortage of powerful spells, dangerous objects, and guarded secrets, yet the Deathly Hallows stand apart. The mere fact that they were not fully erased from history or hidden from the common knowledge of both wizards and muggles raises some unsettling questions. For centuries, the Deathly Hallows were nothing more than a bedtime story, a fairy tale told to children with no more weight than the tale of a knight's quest or a dragon's hoard. This apparent casualness surrounding the legendary artifacts stands in stark contrast to their true capabilities. When one considers the power they represent, it seems almost absurd that such artifacts were not only allowed to exist, but also that their knowledge remained widespread among muggles. After all, if these objects were truly so powerful, wouldn't the wizarding community have ensured that no one, especially the non-magical population, knew about them? The idea that these objects could be sought after by anyone, let alone by someone with the dark ambitions of Lord Voldemort, seems unfathomable. Yet, the legend of the Hallows was no secret. Muggles knew of the tale, and wizarding children were raised on it as though it were a part of their cultural heritage. The notion that the wizarding world, so often depicted as paranoid and cautious about magic, would allow such a thing to slip through the cracks of secrecy is indeed baffling. A simple story of three brothers who asked for something more than the normal magical gifts given by Death himself has been passed down through generations. But how could something of such importance have remained so easily accessible? As we know, the Hallows played a pivotal role in the final confrontation between Harry Potter and Voldemort. But why was their significance never fully realized until the last moment? Dumbledore, a wise and strategic mind, had spent much of his life seeking to understand these artifacts. Yet when Harry first learns of their existence, it seems as though the truth had been hidden in plain sight. If these objects were truly so powerful, why didn't the wizarding community safeguard them better, or at least hide their existence more effectively? One of the most interesting aspects of the Deathly Hallows is that while they are indeed incredibly powerful, their existence was always considered a myth. The Elder Wand, a wand of unparalleled might, was considered an unstoppable force. The Resurrection Stone, with its power to bring back the dead, was considered a cruel tool that could not possibly be used without consequences. The Invisibility Cloak, while not inherently dangerous, would allow one to vanish from the world itself, making its bearer virtually untouchable. Yet despite the legend's clarity about these powers, they remained beyond the reach of all but the most dedicated and fortunate. Why did this mythical status persist for so long, despite the fact that the Hallows could have been used to alter the very fabric of wizarding society? Part of the answer lies in the very nature of the Hallows themselves. They were not just magical objects, but symbols. Each one represented a different aspect of the human experience: death, resurrection, and the desire for invisibility. While these artifacts may have been real, their true power could only be understood when one recognized the deeper lessons behind them. The Elder Wand, for instance, was not a mere instrument of power. It represented the temptation of unchecked ambition, the dangerous pursuit of control. The Resurrection Stone, though it could bring back the dead, carried the weight of grief and the inevitability of loss, reminding its bearer that death could not be avoided, only accepted. The Invisibility Cloak, which allowed its wearer to hide from the world, represented the desire to escape, but also the danger of losing oneself in the process. Dumbledore understood this. He knew the risks of wielding such power and therefore was careful not to let these objects fall into the wrong hands. This is why, despite the fact that the Deathly Hallows were never fully hidden or erased from history, their true significance was never made fully clear. Their existence was a kind of test, a trial of sorts, not only for Harry, but for all who came in contact with them. As Dumbledore tells Harry, "The Deathly Hallows are not just a legend, Harry, they are a trial. If you understand them, you will understand much more." This statement is not just about the objects themselves, but about the deeper implications of their power. The Deathly Hallows were not simply powerful magical objects to be used, they were lessons in human nature and the consequences of wielding too much power. This is why Dumbledore did not reveal their full significance to Harry until the very end. The Hallows were not meant to be found or used casually. In many ways, they were a kind of moral test. The search for the Hallows was not about gaining ultimate power, it was about understanding the nature of life, death, and the responsibility that comes with such knowledge. One cannot overlook the irony that, despite the Hallows being part of the story of Harry Potter, the search for them did not dominate the entire narrative. They were introduced as a subplot, with their significance only becoming clear as the story unfolded. It was not Harry's pursuit of power that drove him, but his desire to stop Voldemort. The Deathly Hallows were, in many ways, a backdrop to the central conflict of the series. The importance of these objects did not lie in their potential for power, but in the choices they represented. Harry was not seeking the Hallows for his own gain, but rather as a means to defeat Voldemort. In the end, his understanding of the Hallows allowed him to confront Voldemort on his own terms. It is also worth noting that Voldemort himself was never able to grasp the true power of the Hallows. His quest for the Elder Wand was driven by a desire for domination, not understanding. He failed to see that the wand was not merely a tool of power, but a symbol of his own inability to accept death and the limits of his control. His inability to comprehend the meaning behind the Hallows was, in many ways, what led to his downfall. The Deathly Hallows, in the end, were not just magical artifacts, they were lessons in humility, in understanding the consequences of one's actions, and in accepting the limitations of power. The wizarding world allowed these objects to exist not because they were inherently good or evil, but because they were symbols of the human condition. In their power, they reflected the desires and fears of those who sought them. The Hallows' true significance lay not in their ability to grant immortality or ultimate power, but in the wisdom they imparted to those who sought them. In conclusion, the existence of the Deathly Hallows in the Harry Potter series is far from a simple plot device. Their role is far deeper, serving as a reflection of the complexities of power, death, and the human experience. While their existence may seem like an oddity in the magical world, their significance is undeniable. They are not just artifacts to be sought after, but symbols that challenge the very nature of magic, power, and mortality. Number 17. Triumphant returns and disappearances. In the magical world of Harry Potter, there are many peculiarities that seem to stretch the boundaries of imagination. Among them, one of the most intriguing and puzzling elements is the frequent disappearances and subsequent returns of key characters, often without any clear explanation. These absences are not simply passing occurrences, but are woven into the fabric of the narrative in such a way that the reader is left wondering about the nature of magical reality itself. Perhaps one of the most significant examples of this phenomenon is the case of Gilderoy Lockhart, a character whose sudden disappearance after his disastrous stint at Hogwarts is never fully addressed until his unexpected reappearance years later. Lockhart, the self-absorbed, flamboyant wizard who became famous for his supposed achievements, makes a memorable entrance in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. His arrival at Hogwarts, boasting about his fame and charming the students, serves as a perfect contrast to the mystery and danger of the Chamber of Secrets. However, after his exposure as a fraud and the subsequent mishap with the memory charm, Lockhart disappears from the narrative. For years there is no mention of him. He is gone, as if swept away by the very magical forces that had once made him a sensation. But then in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Lockhart unexpectedly returns. When Harry and his friends encounter him at St. Mungo's Hospital for magical maladies and injuries, he is a shadow of the man he once was. The once vibrant Lockhart is now reduced to a confused and forgetful individual, unable to recall his past fame or even his own name with any certainty. Yet despite his prominent role in the second book, no explanation is given for his prolonged absence. The reader is left to wonder where Lockhart had been all these years. Was he wandering in a daze, suffering the consequences of his own arrogance, or did the Ministry of Magic simply forget about him after his humiliation? This phenomenon is not isolated to Lockhart. Throughout the series, other characters too disappear and reappear without much fanfare. One such character is Sirius Black. After being imprisoned in Azkaban for a crime he did not commit, Sirius is presumed dead by many, and his name becomes synonymous with betrayal in the minds of Harry's friends. Yet, despite his absence, Sirius's memory and his potential return linger in the background. When he finally does escape from Azkaban, the event is nothing short of miraculous. However, his reappearance, much like Lockhart's, is marked by no clear explanation of how he managed to survive such a harsh and unforgiving place as Azkaban for so many years. The mere fact that he returns as though from the dead is not questioned by the characters around him, and this magical recovery seems to be accepted with little surprise. Even Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts, a man who is rarely seen without a plan or some deep understanding of magical occurrences, faces a strange disappearance of his own. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Dumbledore's death is shrouded in mystery, and for a time the wizarding world is left to wonder how someone as powerful as he could have been killed so easily. His death, although significant, still leaves open the question of whether he had truly been prepared for his end, or if something more sinister had played a role in his disappearance. And yet, despite the tragedy, the magical community seems to move on quickly with little to no discussion about how or why Dumbledore's death had come about. This tendency for characters to vanish only to return without explanation raises an interesting question about the nature of magical society. Do wizards and witches simply have the power to disappear at will? And if so, what does that say about the magical world's understanding of time, memory, and identity? Is there a deeper magic at play here, one that allows these characters to slip in and out of existence, almost as though their absences are not truly noticed? The magical community seems to treat these disappearances as though they are just another part of life, as if the transient nature of these events does not require deeper scrutiny. One explanation could be the powerful role that memory and perception play in the world of Harry Potter. Characters are often able to manipulate memory through spells like the Obliviate Charm, which erases specific memories from a person's mind. It is not unreasonable to think that the same magical principles could be applied to the way people perceive the comings and goings of others. Perhaps in a world where memory can be so easily manipulated, the lines between absence and presence become blurred. After all, wizards and witches are well versed in bending the rules of reality, and it seems possible that some of these absences are not truly as mysterious as they appear. Instead, they may be a reflection of the way magic itself warps perception and alters the course of events. In Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, another key moment occurs when Harry's name is unexpectedly called out of the Goblet of Fire during the Triwizard Tournament. The task ahead of him is monumental, but the mystery surrounding the goblet's choice raises questions about the very nature of fate and destiny in the wizarding world. Why does the goblet choose Harry, and why does no one question this strange occurrence? It is as though Harry's place in the tournament is predetermined by an unseen hand, much like how the return of certain characters is orchestrated by the forces of magic without explanation. The reappearance of characters like Lockhart and Sirius also suggests a certain circularity to the events in the Harry Potter series. The characters' returns echo the cyclical nature of the narrative itself, where past events and characters are constantly revisited and reshaped by the magic of the wizarding world. This theme of repetition and return is mirrored by the frequent encounters Harry has with memories, particularly his own. His ability to look into the pensieve and relive moments from the past highlights the theme of recollection and return, as though the past is never truly gone but continues to haunt the present. One cannot help but notice how these sudden returns also reflect the nature of fame and identity within the wizarding world. Many of the characters who vanish and reappear, Lockhart, Sirius, Dumbledore, are all figures who once held significant status or importance. Their disappearances are often tied to their own actions or mistakes, and yet despite their flaws they remain central to the story's unfolding. Their return is not just a plot device, but a commentary on the ways in which the wizarding world elevates individuals to a status of importance, only to cast them aside when they fail. Yet even in their absence, their legacies persist, and their eventual return is always met with a sense of inevitability. It is also worth considering the role of time in these disappearances. In a world where time-turners exist, the concept of time itself is fluid, and the boundaries between past, present, and future are often blurred. Characters like Lockhart, who reappear years after their initial disappearance, might be seen as symbols of this malleability of time. Their return serves as a reminder that, in the magical world, time is not a linear progression, but a complex web of interconnected events that can be bent, altered, and revisited at will. In the end, the mysterious disappearances and returns of characters like Lockhart and Sirius only serve to deepen the sense of wonder and intrigue that permeates the Harry Potter series. The magical world is one where the impossible is made possible, where characters can vanish and reappear without explanation, and where the very rules of reality seem to be in constant flux. It is a world where anything can happen, and where the boundaries between what is real and what is magical are often indistinguishable. Through these mysterious returns, J.K. Rowling invites readers to question the nature of memory, identity, and time, challenging them to consider the deeper forces at play in the wizarding world and beyond. Number 18. Spells and their strange limitations. In the world of magic, nothing is ever as simple as it appears, and this is evident in the curious limitations of spells. Throughout the Harry Potter series, magic is a tool of immense power, yet it is often bound by rules and constraints that seem almost paradoxical. Take, for instance, the infamous Avada Kedavra curse, one of the 3 unforgivable curses. At first glance, this spell seems to be the ultimate weapon in the magical arsenal. An instantaneous death sentence, an irreversible strike against its victim. However, despite its terrifying potency, it is far from an absolute weapon, and this raises a multitude of questions about the nature of magic in J.K. Rowling's world. Avada Kedavra is a spell that supposedly guarantees death, but the curse is not invincible. In Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, When Voldemort attempts to kill Harry in the graveyard using this curse, Harry's sheer willpower, combined with the protection instilled by his mother's love, causes the curse to rebound. This is a significant moment in the series. The unbeatable curse is thwarted, not by the strength of Harry's magic, but by something as intangible as love. It is the first hint that no spell, no matter how powerful, can ever truly be all-encompassing in the magical world. If love can deflect a curse of death, it becomes clear that even the most destructive spells are not impervious to the complexity of the human heart. The question then arises, why, in a world where magic is so finely tuned to the laws of cause and effect, does such an all-encompassing weapon have limitations? Magic, as portrayed in the Harry Potter universe, operates on certain principles, but these principles often defy our understanding of what should be possible. While spells like Avada Kedavra are deadly, they are also vulnerable to the complexities of human emotions and relationships. This is not a flaw of the magic itself, but a crucial element of its design. It reflects that magic in the wizarding world is not merely about raw power, it is deeply intertwined with the people who wield it, their emotions, their histories, and even their very souls. The failure of Avada Kedavra also raises another issue about the nature of magic, its connection to the caster's intent, and the magical laws that govern it. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, we learn that the success of many spells depends on the intent behind them. Even the most powerful wizards and witches can fail if their magic is misdirected or flawed in its purpose. This is especially evident with Voldemort, whose great magical power is often undermined by his obsession with control and destruction. His desire for power blinds him to the subtle nuances of magic that require more than brute strength. In contrast, Harry, with his pure intentions and empathy, repeatedly proves that the strength of one's heart can be as important, if not more, than sheer magical prowess. Despite being one of the darkest and most fearsome spells in existence, Avada Kedavra is not foolproof. It doesn't work in every circumstance, and it is often used by those who underestimate the unpredictable nature of magic. In the final book, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Voldemort's repeated use of Avada Kedavra in his pursuit of Harry is met with resistance, not because Harry is more powerful than Voldemort, but because Harry understands that magic is not simply a weapon. It is a reflection of one's purpose and connection to the world around them. This is why, in the end, Harry does not have to confront Voldemort with more powerful magic. He defeats him by understanding the true nature of the Elder Wand and using it in a way that Voldemort could never comprehend. Similarly, there are numerous other spells throughout the series that demonstrate limitations despite their potency. Take Expelliarmus, Harry's signature spell. Though it is a simple disarming charm, it becomes one of the most powerful weapons in Harry's arsenal. In his final duel with Voldemort, Expelliarmus is the spell that ultimately disarms the Dark Lord and brings about his defeat. The spell is harmless in its intent. It is not meant to kill or maim, but it is immensely effective because it reflects Harry's values: justice, mercy, and the will to stop fighting when the battle is won. The fact that Harry defeats Voldemort not with a destructive curse but with a disarming charm speaks to the message that magic is not just about power, it is about control, restraint, and the knowledge that sometimes the most powerful thing a wizard can do is choose not to kill. These examples underscore a central theme in the Harry Potter series. Magic, no matter how powerful, is always subject to limitations. Spells are not infallible, and their effectiveness is often influenced by the intention of the caster, the emotional state of the caster, and the complexities of the situation at hand. Even the most destructive spells are subject to the laws of magic, and even the most powerful wizards can fail if they fail to understand these laws. Magic in the Harry Potter universe is not simply about conquering death or overpowering enemies. It is about balance, understanding, and the ability to make choices. The idea that magic can be thwarted by emotion or intent is further explored in the series with the concept of non-verbal magic. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, we learn that advanced magic can be cast without the need for spoken words. This ability to perform magic without verbal incantations highlights the importance of the caster's focus and intention over the mechanical aspect of spellcasting. It suggests that magic is not merely a formula to be followed. It is an art that requires deep concentration, precision, and understanding. The very nature of magic in this universe requires a connection between the caster and their surroundings, suggesting that even the most powerful spells are not completely divorced from the emotional and mental state of the person casting them. One of the most poignant examples of magical limitations comes in the form of the Deathly Hallows. The Elder Wand, which is the most powerful wand in existence, is rendered ineffective in the hands of someone who does not understand its true nature. Voldemort, in his desperation to claim the wand's power, never fully grasps the key fact. The wand's power is not about ownership, but about the relationship between the wielder and the wand itself. This failure to understand the true nature of the Elder Wand mirrors the theme of the series. Power alone is never enough. Magic, like all things, is about balance, intention, and understanding. In the final confrontation between Harry and Voldemort, the Elder Wand's true power is revealed. Voldemort's attempt to use the wand against Harry fails because the wand does not recognize Voldemort as its true master. The wand, in its own way, acknowledges the importance of the bond between Harry and the magical world around him. This moment underscores that no matter how powerful a spell is, no matter how strong the magic behind it, there is always a deeper understanding that must be mastered for true success. This limitation in the power of spells reminds us that magic in the Harry Potter universe is never purely mechanical or materialistic. It is an intricate part of the emotional and moral fabric of the characters who wield it. Thus, the limitations of magic in Harry Potter do not detract from its power. Rather, they add depth and richness to the world that Rowling has created. These constraints force the characters to confront their own beliefs, desires, and weaknesses, and in doing so, they make the world of magic feel more grounded, more relatable. In the end, it is not the raw power of magic that defines the victory over evil. It is the wisdom, the compassion, and the understanding of the deeper forces that govern the magical world. Number 19, The Prophecy of Potter. Mystical ambiguity. The prophecy in Harry Potter has always been one of the most puzzling elements of J.K. Rowling's intricate plot. It has been viewed by many as the key to understanding the battle between Harry Potter and Voldemort, a prophecy that foretold that one would have to die at the hands of the other. The prophecy speaks of the one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord and describes the child born at the end of July, marking Harry as the one destined to defeat Voldemort. However, despite its apparent certainty, this prophecy becomes shrouded in mystery, especially in the context of the series' conclusion. It is a strange, almost unsettling paradox that the prophecy, which is central to the narrative, is ultimately not as decisive as one might expect. It seems to lose its grip over the characters and events at the very moment when it should have been most crucial. Why then does the prophecy become so unclear, even irrelevant, as the story progresses? When the prophecy is first introduced, it seems like a clear-cut statement of fate. It predicts that Voldemort would be destroyed by a child born in July, and it sets in motion a dangerous pursuit of this child. Voldemort, in his arrogance and obsession with immortality, marks Harry as his equal, a threat to his power and existence. As a result, Harry's life becomes intertwined with the prophecy. Yet in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, it is revealed that the prophecy is much less significant than it initially seemed. In fact, it almost becomes an afterthought as Harry himself grapples with the realization that it doesn't determine his fate. Instead, his choices will shape his destiny. The core of the confusion lies in the nature of the prophecy itself. In the Order of the Phoenix, Professor Trelawney's foretelling is cryptic. It states that the Dark Lord will not be defeated by anyone except the one who has the power to vanquish him, a child born in July. But what makes the prophecy truly confusing is the very nature of its wording. The prophecy doesn't describe the means or methods by which Voldemort is to be defeated, nor does it specify that Harry must kill Voldemort. In fact, it only tells us that one of them must die at the hands of the other. This creates ambiguity in the prophecy's interpretation. Harry could have easily died at Voldemort's hand. Without the prophecy being fulfilled in the traditional sense of the word, the prophecy therefore becomes an enigma rather than a clear directive. It reveals a potential future, but one that is not set in stone. As Harry faces the reality of the prophecy in the Deathly Hallows, he begins to understand that his life cannot be guided by fate alone. The prophecy's true meaning is less important than the choices he makes in the face of danger. It's not about whether Harry is the one who must defeat Voldemort, but how he decides to confront that inevitable confrontation. The realization that the prophecy is merely a path, not a predetermined outcome, transforms Harry's perception of himself and his journey. He comes to understand that the prophecy merely points to a possible future, but it is his actions that will decide the outcome. This understanding is crucial because it shifts the narrative focus from destiny to agency. Harry is not merely a pawn of fate, he is an active participant in shaping his own future. One of the most striking moments in the series is when Harry realizes that the prophecy no longer defines him. The true turning point comes when Harry sacrifices himself to Voldemort in the Deathly Hallows. It is in this moment that he fully understands the power of choice, as he willingly walks into the forest to face death, not because the prophecy demands it, but because he believes it is the only way to stop Voldemort. In this act of self-sacrifice, Harry defies the prophecy by choosing to give himself up. It's a decision that reveals the prophecy's ultimate insignificance. He chooses to die, not because he is fated to do so, but because it is the only path he believes will end the suffering and end Voldemort's reign of terror. This act is the true victory over the prophecy. Even Voldemort, in his twisted interpretation of the prophecy, becomes a victim of its inherent uncertainty. He believes that by killing Harry he can defeat the prophecy and secure his immortality. But in doing so, he unwittingly fulfills the prophecy by making Harry the final key to his destruction. Voldemort's obsession with the prophecy leads him to overlook the one thing that makes it so powerful: its ambiguity. The prophecy, after all, is only a piece of a larger narrative. It's not the prophecy itself that determines Voldemort's fate, but Harry's. Willingness to face death and make the ultimate sacrifice. In a way, Voldemort is trapped by his own obsession with the prophecy, unable to see the bigger picture. This ambiguity is central to the theme of choice in the Harry Potter series. The prophecy's ambiguity is not just a plot device, it's a philosophical statement about the nature of free will and destiny. The prophecy suggests that destiny is not a simple path that can be followed blindly. Instead, it is something that can be shaped by the choices one makes. Harry's ultimate victory over Voldemort is not the result of fulfilling the prophecy, but rather the result of his ability to choose how he will confront death. In this way, the prophecy becomes an important, yet secondary, element in the narrative. The idea of the prophecy as a mysterious force that doesn't dictate Harry's actions is reinforced by the way it is delivered and interpreted. In The Half-Blood Prince, when Dumbledore reveals the full prophecy to Harry, he explains that it is not the prophecy itself that determines Harry's fate, but the choices he makes in response to it. Dumbledore emphasizes that the prophecy is merely one of many possible paths that Harry could take. Harry is not bound by it. He has the power to choose whether to act on it, to follow it, or to reject it altogether. This shift in perspective marks a critical moment in Harry's growth as a character. He moves from being a passive recipient of prophecy to an active participant in his own destiny. Another aspect of the prophecy's ambiguity is its connection to the concept of identity. At first, Harry's identity is shaped by the prophecy. He is the chosen one, the one who is supposed to defeat Voldemort. But as the series progresses, Harry comes to understand that he is much more than the prophecy. He is a person with his own choices, desires, and flaws. The prophecy may have predicted his birth, but it does not define him. This realization frees Harry from the burden of destiny. He no longer feels the weight of the prophecy as an unavoidable fate. Instead, he sees himself as an individual capable of making his own decisions, capable of shaping his own future. The loss of significance of the prophecy is one of the most profound moments in the series. When Harry walks into the forest to face Voldemort, he is no longer the child destined to defeat the Dark Lord. He is a young man who has made his own choice to confront death. In this moment, the prophecy is revealed for what it truly is, a reflection of the choices Harry has already made. It's not the prophecy that determines the outcome, but Harry's willingness to embrace his fate on his own terms. As the story concludes, it becomes clear that the prophecy, despite its earlier prominence, does not hold the power we once thought it did. Instead, it is Harry's courage, his choices, and his ability to shape his own destiny that lead to Voldemort's defeat. The prophecy, in the end, is not the driving force of the story. It is merely a piece of the puzzle, an element that shows the complexity of Harry's journey and the nature of his ultimate victory. Thus, the prophecy's strange nature, its shifting importance, and its ambiguity serve to highlight the central themes of the Harry Potter series: choice, destiny, and self-determination. It becomes clear that while the prophecy may have set the stage for Harry's journey, it is his own actions, his own will to fight, and his own willingness to face death that ultimately determine the outcome. Number 20. Why was Hogwarts such a great school? Hogwarts is not just a school in the Harry Potter series, it stands as a symbol of magic, power, and mystery. It is the very heartbeat of the magical world, a place that shapes the lives of every young witch and wizard who walks through its ancient doors. However, when you step back and analyze its significance, a peculiar question arises. Why was Hogwarts the one school that became so central to the magical community? Why did it hold such weight in the eyes of both magical and non-magical people alike? It's not as though the school's students are always the most powerful wizards or witches. Even the founders of the school, despite their legendary status, created a place that seemed at times almost too vulnerable, too susceptible to dark forces. It is as though there's a grand paradox at play, a symbol of magic, but also a place where dark forces repeatedly rise, threatening everything it stands for. Let's take a closer look at the inherent contradictions. Hogwarts, with its centuries-old legacy, was created by four of the most powerful wizards of their time: Godric Gryffindor, Salazar Slytherin, Helga Hufflepuff, and Rowena Ravenclaw. Each of them contributed something uniquely significant to the school. The four houses each carried their own legacy and value, be it bravery, ambition, loyalty, or wisdom. This alone should have guaranteed Hogwarts' place as a bastion of strength in the magical world. However, throughout the series, we see a rather disturbing pattern. Despite all its grandeur, the school repeatedly faces dangers that on the surface seem avoidable, even preventable. For instance, the Chamber of Secrets. The ancient hidden chamber was said to house a deadly monster, and yet no one had bothered to check on it for centuries. How is it that a place so integral to the magical world could harbour such a significant threat without anyone noticing? The chamber, as we later learn, was constructed by Salazar Slytherin, who had a particular disdain for Muggle-borns. But the school never managed to unearth this secret until it was nearly too late. The fact that this chamber existed in the first place speaks volumes about the dangers that lurked within Hogwarts' walls, suggesting that the school wasn't quite as secure as one might expect from the heart of wizardry. This brings us to another issue, the very architecture of Hogwarts itself. It's a grand, sprawling building filled with hidden passages, secret rooms and enchanted portraits. On the one hand, this gives the school a sense of mystery, of magic infused into every brick. But on the other hand, these hidden features often become the very tools through which dark forces invade. For example, when Harry and his friends discover the Room of Requirement in their 5th year, they are able to use it to store their items, but they also use it as a secret meeting place to practice defense against the dark arts. It's a place of refuge, but also one that can be exploited. It's a space designed to fulfill the needs of whoever seeks it, which is a reminder that a place so powerful can also serve those who mean harm. The question remains, though, why was Hogwarts the site of such frequent peril? What made it so significant in the first place? There are few places that stand as symbols in the magical world as Hogwarts does, yet its inherent vulnerability is apparent. For one, the school's very foundation in its 4 founders' differing views might have been its downfall. Slytherin's disdain for Muggleborns set the stage for discord, an undercurrent that, while hidden for many years, ultimately resurfaces with terrible consequences. The enmity between Gryffindor and Slytherin, which is passed down through generations, often surfaces as a source of strife. This animosity isn't the only problem within the school. Hogwarts' tendency to attract danger can be partly attributed to the magical community's insistence on uniting so many powerful forces in one place. It's not hard to understand why this would be appealing. A single, centralized institution that would house the greatest minds and magical talents. But when you gather so much power in one spot, it is only a matter of time before that power is tested, both by external forces and internal ambitions. The danger isn't just from the outside world, as seen with Voldemort's return, it's also internal. A great deal of turmoil arises from within the school's walls, particularly in the way certain students are treated. Take, for example, Harry Potter himself. From the very beginning, Harry is targeted by dark forces because of his connection to Lord Voldemort. However, despite his relative youth and lack of experience, Harry's actions often become the catalyst for the school's survival. His presence at Hogwarts, it seems, is both a gift and a burden. His connection to the school and to the larger magical world cannot be understated, but his constant involvement in thwarting dark forces speaks to a fundamental issue with Hogwarts. If the school were truly as secure as one might expect, why would Harry, a student, have to fight so many of its battles? Why were the magical authorities unable to prevent the dangers that repeatedly rose within Hogwarts? In fact, Hogwarts' very role as a safe haven for the magical community is undermined by its frequent breakdowns in security and safety. We see this most clearly when Harry's 5th year coincides with the rise of Dolores Umbridge, whose authoritarian grip on the school stifles freedom and creates an atmosphere ripe for rebellion. If Hogwarts were truly the symbol of security, why was it so easily manipulated by one individual especially someone as unqualified as Umbridge. The magical world, with all its power, should have been able to protect its own most sacred institution, but time and again, Hogwarts is shown to be vulnerable, perhaps more so than any other magical place. Moreover, while the magical community rallies around Hogwarts in times of crisis, there's an unsettling aspect to this loyalty, and the school is, without a doubt, a source of immense pride. Yet it is also an institution that continues to harbour dangers. The loyalty of the students and the faculty to Hogwarts often blinds them to the dangers that are embedded within it. The school's very foundation, meant to unite the magical world, also enables these hidden forces to fester. It's almost as though the very reputation of Hogwarts acts as a shield, allowing dangerous forces to slip under the radar, gaining strength until it is nearly too late. What's more troubling is the school's repeated failure to address its darker elements, both within and beyond its walls. We see this clearly in The Prisoner of Azkaban when Sirius Black escapes from Azkaban and Harry, along with his friends, is forced to uncover the truth. The fact that a convicted murderer could escape a high-security prison and waltz right into Hogwarts shows how easily the magical world's greatest institution can be breached. Throughout the series, Hogwarts' capacity to attract dark forces, whether through Voldemort, Death Eaters, or other dark wizards, points to a systemic flaw in the institution's design. Hogwarts is undeniably a place of profound power and importance, but its constant flirtation with danger raises many questions. Why does the wizarding world trust this school so implicitly despite its obvious flaws? The magical community's blind devotion to Hogwarts, even in the face of its repeated failures, suggests that the school has become more than just an institution of learning. It is a symbol of power, of unity, and of the mystical beauty that defines the magical world. But like all symbols, it is also an ideal that is imperfect and vulnerable to being manipulated by those who seek to destroy it. Hogwarts may be the center of magical education, but it also represents a paradox, a place that holds both the power to protect and the seeds of destruction, all within its ancient walls. Number 21. The magical world and the lack of protective measures. In the world of Harry Potter, a magical universe filled with spells, enchanted creatures, and powerful wizards, the complexity of its magical laws and protective charms is often a source of fascination. However, one significant oddity that stands out to many is the lack of foolproof protection in places that should, by all rights, be impenetrable. A glaring example of this is the case of the Chamber of Secrets, hidden within the walls of Hogwarts, despite the fact that Hogwarts is considered one of the most well-defended magical institutions in the wizarding world. It seems remarkably vulnerable to certain threats, such as the opening of the chamber and the intrusion of the basilisk, a creature of immense danger. This strange contradiction raises an important question. How could such a prestigious school with numerous defensive enchantments, including those set by powerful witches and wizards, allow such a fatal flaw to exist? In Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, we are introduced to the idea that Hogwarts, despite its formidable reputation for being well protected, is far from impervious to dark forces. One of the most perplexing elements of the story is the way the Chamber of Secrets, a hidden room within the school, is able to remain hidden for centuries, and yet, when the right conditions are met, it becomes accessible to those who wish to use its ancient and dangerous secrets. Even with all the magical resources at the disposal of the wizarding world, this flaw in the school's security is never fully explained. In the book, Professor McGonagall confidently assures Harry Potter that the chamber is well secured and cannot be accessed by anyone who is not authorized. She assures him that even the most skilled dark wizard would be unable to breach the protective charms surrounding it. Yet the events unfold in such a way that not only does the chamber open, but it also unleashes a deadly creature, the basilisk, into the school, putting the lives of students at risk. This raises the uncomfortable question of how something so dangerous, something capable of causing death and chaos, could have been allowed to exist within the school's confines without the necessary safeguards to prevent its release. The fact that the basilisk is able to enter the school and wreak havoc demonstrates a significant oversight in the school's magical defenses. It is not as though Hogwarts is some forgotten, poorly maintained institution. Quite the opposite. It is the most prestigious magical school in the wizarding world, attended by many of the finest witches and wizards of the age. Yet despite its reputation, we see time and again that its defenses are not as impenetrable as one might expect. The chamber itself, hidden deep within the school, should have been a place of absolute security. So how was it that an ancient creature which had been locked away for centuries could so easily resurface, even when a host of magical protections were in place? The story hints at the idea that the chamber was specifically designed with magical security measures to ensure that no one could enter. However, the existence of the basilisk, a creature so dangerous that its very gaze could kill, is a glaring loophole. The creature, according to legend, was placed in the chamber by Salazar Slytherin, one of the founders of Hogwarts. But the existence of this deadly monster raises the question of why it was left in the school at all, given its lethal nature. How could a creature that was bound to kill anyone who laid eyes on it remain unchecked for so long? If Hogwarts truly had the powerful magical protections that its founders supposedly placed there, why did these charms not extend to prevent such a dangerous creature from causing harm in the first place? The very idea that the basilisk was able to cause so much destruction also begs the question of why the school's staff, who are all accomplished witches and wizards, were unable to prevent or even detect its presence for such a long time. The story makes it clear that several students were petrified by the basilisk, yet no one seemed to notice the creature's movements, despite the fact that it was roaming the halls, seemingly undetected. Even after multiple attacks, the professors were unable to discover the source of the danger until Harry Potter, with his unique ability to speak tongue, unraveled the mystery. The fact that such a serious threat was allowed to exist in the first place indicates a major flaw in the magical defenses of the school. When you look at Hogwarts' defenses from a broader perspective, it becomes clear that while the magical world is full of powerful enchantments, they are not foolproof. Magical security measures, like any other type of defense, are only as strong as the loopholes they leave open, and Hogwarts seems to have left several glaring ones. The chamber's entrance, for example, was hidden beneath the girls' bathroom, a place that, while obscure, was still within easy reach of students. If this was meant to be one of the most well-guarded secrets in the school, it seems highly improbable that such an important entrance would remain unguarded, especially given its deadly potential. Furthermore, the school's defenses seem to be designed in a way that leaves much to be desired in terms of practical security. While the staff may have placed charms and spells around the school, these protections were not foolproof, as evidenced by the events surrounding the chamber. If the magical world is as advanced as the books suggest, it stands to reason that better safeguards could have been put in place to prevent the chamber from being accessed so easily. The failure to prevent the basilisk from being unleashed into the school calls into question the true extent of Hogwarts' magical security and whether it was truly as strong as it was believed to be. Another curious aspect of the situation is the fact that despite all of the school's protections, there seems to be little effort made to further safeguard it from external threats. The magical world, as presented in Harry Potter, is full of dark forces, from Death Eaters to creatures like the basilisk, Yet it seems as though there is little coordination between the wizarding community and the school's administration when it comes to ensuring that these dangers are kept in check. The Ministry of Magic, for example, does not seem to take a proactive role in ensuring that the school remains secure from such threats, even though the safety of the students is supposed to be their responsibility. Instead, the magical world seems to operate on a reactive basis, waiting until a crisis occurs before taking any significant action. This lack of forward-thinking defense highlights a systemic issue within the magical community and its approach to security. The presence of the basilisk also reveals another flaw in the magical world's approach to dangerous creatures. If magical creatures are to be kept under control, it is crucial to ensure that they are properly contained and monitored. However, as we see in the Chamber of Secrets, the basilisk was left unchecked for years, with only vague references to the safeguards that were supposed to keep it hidden. The story suggests that the creature was bound in the chamber for a reason, yet no real attempt was made to prevent it from being released into the school. This raises serious questions about how magical creatures and the dangers they pose are handled by the wizarding community. Ultimately, the events surrounding the Chamber of Secrets reveal a number of issues with the magical world's approach to security. While Hogwarts is undoubtedly a place of immense magical power, it is not immune to the vulnerabilities that exist within the broader magical community. The presence of the basilisk and the ease with which it was released highlight the gaps in the school's defenses and the broader magical world's failure to adequately protect its most sacred spaces. In the end, the story shows that even the most powerful magic can be undone by the simplest of oversights. The fact that the chamber could be opened at all and that a dangerous creature could be unleashed proves that the magical world is not as invulnerable as it may seem. Number 22. Why does everyone remember Fawkes? In the Harry Potter series, there is one magical creature that stands out, appearing at some of the most critical moments in the story: Fawkes, the Phoenix. This majestic bird, with its flames and healing powers, plays a pivotal role in Harry's life. However, a peculiar aspect of Fawkes' involvement has always caught the attention of readers. Why does he appear only during the most dire circumstances? If phoenixes have such remarkable abilities, why are they not more prominently involved in everyday life within the wizarding world? After all, Fawkes' powers of healing and rebirth could undoubtedly offer a significant advantage to the wizarding community. Yet these powers seem to be reserved for a select few moments in the narrative, leaving the reader with the unsettling question of why such a powerful creature is not more commonly relied upon. Fawkes first comes into Harry's life in the Chamber of Secrets, when he appears in the Chamber of Secrets itself to aid Harry in his battle against the basilisk. With his song, Fawkes blinds the basilisk, allowing Harry to defeat the creature, and most notably he provides Harry with the sorting hat, from which the sword of Godric Gryffindor emerges. It is in this moment that Fawkes demonstrates one of his most significant powers. His tears can heal the most grievous of injuries. When Harry is bitten by the basilisk, Fawkes' tears are what save him. This miraculous act raises several questions. Why does Fawkes only appear at this moment when Harry is on the verge of death? If he is capable of such power, why not offer his assistance sooner, or even prevent such a dangerous situation from occurring in the first place? Dumbledore's statement about Fawkes in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Fawkes not only saves but gives strength. He can heal any wounds, emphasizes the immense power of the Phoenix. Yet this begs the question, why does Fawkes' help appear so sporadically, and why is his intervention so dramatic? Throughout the series, we see that the Phoenix is more of a symbol than a practical tool for solving problems. He is a representation of resurrection, and the cyclical nature of life, but his role in the grand narrative seems to be that of a miraculous, almost mythological figure, rather than a dependable ally. One of the central moments when Fawkes appears is in The Order of the Phoenix, when he heals Harry after a particularly painful and emotional event. Harry has been through a great deal physically and emotionally in the fight against Lord Voldemort and his Death Eaters, and once again it is Fawkes who provides him with much-needed healing. This moment highlights Fawkes's ability to restore more than just physical health. It's his emotional support, his symbolic reminder of rebirth, that seems to offer Harry the strength to move forward. But once again, we must ask why Fawkes doesn't make his presence known more often when the wizarding world is facing turmoil. Why does he not actively assist the wizarding community in their ongoing battles? Phoenixes, as a species, are known to be rare, and their immortality is a defining trait. The fact that Fawkes can regenerate after death is, in itself, a testament to the strength of his magic. Yet, throughout the series, his role remains remarkably isolated. There is no indication that there are other Phoenixes around to assist in the fight against dark magic or to offer healing to those who suffer. Why, with such power at their disposal, does the magical community not rely on Phoenixes for everyday problems or even as a strategic advantage in their wars? Their abilities could have made them invaluable allies during times of conflict, especially given the ongoing struggle with Voldemort and his followers. When one considers the history of the magical world, it is apparent that powerful creatures like Phoenixes have always been regarded as somewhat enigmatic. The fact that Dumbledore, one of the most powerful wizards of all time, keeps Fawkes as his companion speaks volumes about the uniqueness and importance of the Phoenix. Yet this connection is personal, not practical. The magical community at large does not seem to view Fawkes or Phoenixes as tools to be used in the battle against evil. Instead, they remain rare, almost legendary creatures that are only called upon in moments of extreme need. This selective involvement could be interpreted as a deliberate narrative choice, one that emphasizes the idea that not all solutions to the world's problems can be found through magic, no matter how powerful it might be. Another example of Fawkes's intervention comes when he aids Harry during the battle at the Ministry of Magic in the Order of the Phoenix. Harry, injured and at the mercy of Voldemort's forces, is once again saved by Fawkes's tears. However, this intervention occurs after a long and difficult struggle, one that could have been avoided or mitigated if such a powerful creature had been involved from the beginning. In fact, throughout the series, Fawkes appears only when the stakes are highest. His timely arrival, while dramatic, suggests that magic and power alone cannot solve all of life's challenges. The Phoenix's interventions are reserved for the most critical junctures, underscoring the narrative message that true strength lies not in the supernatural powers at one's disposal, but in the choices made and the lessons learned through adversity. Fawkes's role in Harry's life is more symbolic than practical. While his tears can heal wounds and his song can drive away darkness, these acts serve to highlight the themes of sacrifice, rebirth, and the interconnectedness of life and death. The Phoenix's occasional interventions serve as a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always a possibility for renewal. But this doesn't explain why such a powerful creature is not more actively involved in the larger issues facing the wizarding world. If Phoenixes are so capable, why do they not serve as a more integral part of the wizarding community's defense against dark forces? Perhaps in the end, the answer lies in the nature of Fawkes's appearances. The times when Fawkes does intervene are always significant because they represent moments of profound transformation for Harry. Each of these moments marks a turning point in his journey, where he learns something new about himself and the world around him. Fawkes does not offer his aid as a simple solution to problems, but as a way to help Harry grow and overcome challenges. In this sense, Fawkes is not just a creature of power, but a guide, a reminder of the cyclical nature of life, and a symbol of the strength that comes from resilience and renewal. In the end, Fawkes's role in the Harry Potter series serves to remind us that magic, while powerful, cannot always solve every problem. The Phoenix's interventions are rare, but their significance is profound. His appearances in Harry's life are not about offering simple solutions to complex problems, but about helping Harry find his own strength and resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. This is the true magic of Fawkes, not his powers, but the way in which he symbolizes the possibility of rebirth, even in the darkest of times. Number 23. Amusing prophecies and their fulfillment. In the world of Harry Potter, prophecies play a peculiar role, casting shadows over the lives of the characters, especially Harry himself. They hold great significance, yet their interpretations often lead to unexpected and at times unintended consequences. One of the most curious and somewhat ironic aspects of prophecies in the wizarding world is how they tend to be fulfilled, but not necessarily in the ways people expect. The prophecy that the one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches is a perfect example of this ambiguity. The fact that it lacks clear details, leaving so much room for misinterpretation, makes the prophecy itself a paradox, both a source of hope and despair, but also a tool of fate that binds the future in an unsettling way. The idea that prophecy alone can shape the future is, in itself, a fascinating and perplexing element of the Harry Potter universe. From the very beginning, prophecies are treated with an air of inevitability and gravity, yet they are far from being straightforward or clear-cut. One of the key examples is the prophecy about Harry and Voldemort, the one that states that either can live while the other survives. On the surface, it appears to be a straightforward declaration of their ultimate confrontation and mutual destruction, but the actual fulfillment of this prophecy takes a winding and convoluted path. This ambiguity raises a crucial question. How much of a prophecy is determined by the circumstances and how much is truly written in stone? In fact, the prophecy itself doesn't specify that Harry will defeat Voldemort by any particular method, just that their fates are intertwined. The expectation of a simple duel is misleading, as the eventual destruction of Voldemort is far more complicated, involving loyalty, sacrifice, and the very essence of what makes a person human. Dumbledore, ever wise and enigmatic, provides some insight into the nature of prophecies. Prophecies are not always fulfilled as we expect, he explains. His words reflect a key theme in the series, that of fate versus free will. Prophecies are not just predictions of what will happen, but they also carry the weight of interpretation and action. In the case of Harry and Voldemort, the prophecy is twisted by both their actions and the actions of others. For example, it's Voldemort's decision to mark Harry as his equal that sets the stage for Harry's eventual confrontation with him. Had Voldemort not chosen to hunt Harry down, the prophecy would never have come to pass in the way it did. This speaks to a much larger theme of how choices and actions can defy the deterministic nature of prophecies. But what about the other prophecies in the Harry Potter world? While Harry's prophecy is perhaps the most notable, it is not the only one to come to light. Another significant prophecy is that of Neville Longbottom, who was also born at the end of July and could have been the one to defeat Voldemort. This is a compelling parallel to Harry's story, as it illustrates the randomness of fate. Both Neville and Harry were marked as the ones who could potentially defeat Voldemort, yet it was Harry who fulfilled the prophecy. This leads to a fundamental question: what makes one individual's actions or fate take precedence over another's? Is it mere chance, or something more? In this case, it seems that the prophecy was more about the individual's character and the choices they made, rather than a predestined outcome. The ambiguity of prophecies is not limited to the prophecy of Harry and Voldemort alone. Throughout the series, other prophetic visions and predictions create a sense of mystery and suspense without always following through in the expected manner. Take, for instance, the prophecy made by Sybil Trelawney during Harry's first year at Hogwarts, when she predicts that Harry will be in grave danger on Christmas Eve. This prediction comes true, but not in the way anyone expects. The prediction is tied to Harry's own actions rather than some cosmic alignment of events. This highlights how prophecies, while often seen as foretellings of inevitable events, can often be more about the choices people make in response to them. One of the most perplexing aspects of the prophecies in Harry Potter is how they are interpreted. The notion that a prophecy is a form of truth that must be fulfilled is frequently challenged by the way people act upon them. When Voldemort first hears the prophecy from Sybil Trelawney, he becomes so fixated on it that he sets into motion a series of events that ultimately lead to his downfall. In his obsession, he inadvertently sets Harry on the path to defeating him. This raises the question of whether prophecies are inherently dangerous because they can lead individuals to make decisions based on incomplete or misunderstood knowledge. Dumbledore recognizes this when he tells Harry that the prophecy's real meaning is not in what is written, but in how it is acted upon. The prophecy's true power lies not in its content, but in its ability to shape the actions of those who believe in it. Another example of the way prophecy influences characters is in the story of the prophecy regarding the Dark Lord's rise and fall. This prophecy is a central component in Voldemort's obsession with eliminating Harry. However, it is clear that Voldemort's interpretation of the prophecy is flawed from the outset. He believes that Harry is the only one who can defeat him, but he fails to understand the deeper meaning of prophecy. Voldemort's interpretation of the prophecy as a tool of destruction only serves to fuel his own paranoia and fear. The very prophecy that he believes will ensure his downfall is the one that ultimately leads to his demise. In addition to its impact on Voldemort, the prophecy also shapes the lives of others around Harry. Throughout the series, various characters are impacted by the knowledge of the prophecy, especially those who believe that they must act according to it. In many ways, this adds to the pressure that Harry feels as he comes to terms with his destiny. His own sense of self is deeply entwined with the prophecy, but as he learns over time, it is not the prophecy itself that defines him. It is his actions and choices. This is a crucial distinction, one that is revealed in his final confrontation with Voldemort. Harry's victory is not the result of a prophecy, but of the loyalty, love, and courage that he has nurtured throughout his life. The role of the prophecy also speaks to a larger theme in the Harry Potter series, the tension between fate and free will. While prophecies seem to predict the future, they are not set in stone. The choices individuals make, whether in defiance of fate or in acceptance of it, are what ultimately shape their destinies. The way Harry reacts to the prophecy is a testament to this. He does not passively accept the role that the prophecy seems to dictate, but instead actively chooses to fight against it. This is what makes Harry's story so compelling. He is not defined by the prophecy, but rather by his ability to choose his own path despite the weight of destiny pressing down upon him. The existence of prophecies in the Harry Potter universe raises fundamental questions about destiny, free will, and the power of belief. While they are often depicted as inevitable truths, their actual fulfillment is far from guaranteed. Prophecies are in many ways reflections of the biases and interpretations of those who hear them. They are not always what they appear to be, and they are certainly not as straightforward as they first seem. The events in Harry's life are not shaped solely by the prophecy, but by the people around him, the choices they make, and the actions that follow. In this sense, the prophecies in Harry Potter are both a reflection of fate and a challenge to it, offering a unique commentary on the complex interplay between destiny and free will. Number 24, Wizards and Their Strange Creeds. In the magical world of Harry Potter, one of the most intriguing aspects is the paradoxical nature of wizardry. Wizards and witches, with their unparalleled abilities, seem to exist in a universe brimming with magical potential. Yet despite their power, there are many laws and rules that govern their use of magic, rules that appear both restrictive and, at times, nonsensical. One question that immediately arises is why such a powerful force, capable of transforming the very fabric of society, remains so tightly controlled. What is the rationale behind the governing body's hesitation to allow magic to flourish freely in both the wizarding and Muggle worlds? At the core of this issue is the magical law that prohibits the use of magic outside of the magical world. This is particularly evident in the Ministry of Magic's decree about the Statute of Secrecy, which prevents wizards and witches from using magic in the presence of Muggles. This rule is meant to protect the magical community from the Muggle world's fear and misunderstanding, but it creates an odd dichotomy. Wizards are clearly capable of immense power, capable of healing, enhancing life, and even altering reality itself, yet they are forbidden to use these abilities freely. This self-imposed limitation raises the question, if magic could truly improve the lives of Muggles, why do wizards choose to hide their abilities? Could they not use their powers for the greater good, beyond the confines of their own world? Take, for example, the powerful healing charms and potions available in the wizarding world. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Harry watches as Professor Snape heals an injury with astonishing speed. Similarly, in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Hermione uses a spell to fix Harry's broken glasses in a matter of seconds. These are small examples of how magic could potentially revolutionize medicine or improve the quality of life for everyone. Yet, despite the obvious benefits, the use of these abilities is strictly prohibited outside of magical society, creating a distinct separation between the two worlds. This rule seems absurd when we consider how much more advanced magical medicine is compared to the Muggle world. If such magic existed, surely it would benefit everyone, not just a privileged few. Furthermore, the regulation of magic within the magical community itself is equally perplexing. While the Ministry of Magic is quick to enforce the Statute of Secrecy in the Muggle world, it seems remarkably lenient when it comes to policing the actions of its own members. A prime example of this is the use of dark magic. Wizards and witches who practice the dark arts, like Lord Voldemort and his followers, wreak havoc on the magical world with seemingly little interference from the authorities. The Ministry, in fact, is often portrayed as inept and complacent in the face of such threats, as seen with the constant political infighting and the corruption within the Ministry's ranks. This stands in stark contrast to their extreme measures when dealing with the simple, non-magical community, which is considered incapable of understanding magic. If the Ministry can regulate the behavior of its own citizens so rigorously in other matters, why is it so unwilling to take stronger action against those who misuse their powers for evil? In fact, the entire structure of the wizarding world is built on this peculiar dichotomy between control and chaos. On the one hand, magical authorities are obsessed with maintaining strict boundaries between the magical and Muggle worlds, ensuring that magic is used responsibly and cautiously. On the other hand, within their own society, magic is used for everything from trivial personal gain to horrific violence, without much regulation. The book reveals this contradiction when the Minister of Magic, Cornelius Fudge, attempts to suppress the truth about Lord Voldemort's return in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Fudge's refusal to act, even when faced with overwhelming evidence, underscores how deeply ingrained this hypocrisy is within the magical government. It also raises the question of whether the ministry is more concerned with maintaining control over its people than protecting the wider world from the dangers of dark magic. Moreover, the inconsistency of magical law extends to the magical creatures that inhabit the world. While there are laws to protect certain creatures, such as hippogriffs or house elves, there is an overwhelming lack of regulation regarding the treatment of others, such as werewolves. In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, we see how werewolves are shunned and feared by the wizarding community, yet they are allowed to exist in a society that refuses to acknowledge their condition. The treatment of these creatures reflects a deeper issue within the magical world, the lack of empathy and understanding toward those who do not fit into the idealized version of a magical being. This prejudice against non-humans is mirrored in the way witches and wizards treat one another, particularly those who are born to Muggle parents. The idea of blood purity in the magical world highlights the social stratification that exists, and the magical laws that enforce this divide contribute to the broader issues of inequality and injustice in the wizarding community. The existence of such restrictive laws in a society so advanced in magic also brings up a critical philosophical question. Is the magical world truly governed by wisdom and prudence, or by fear? The notion of magic being a dangerous power is frequently reinforced throughout the books. Albus Dumbledore's guidance to Harry in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, magic is a power that must be used with caution, Harry. But some things cannot be changed, is a prime example of this caution. Dumbledore, a figure revered for his wisdom, views magic as something to be wielded with great care, but also something that cannot be fully understood or controlled. His reluctance to change the status quo, even when he recognizes the flaws within the system, speaks to the underlying fear that magic could become a force for destruction if not properly contained. This fear is not without merit. Throughout the series, we witness the destructive potential of magic when it falls into the wrong hands. The very existence of Lord Voldemort, a dark wizard capable of manipulating and killing with dark magic, is a testament to how power can be corrupted when unchecked. His rise to power is only possible because the wizarding world fails to address the growing threat he poses. The Ministry's reaction to Voldemort's return, particularly in the earlier books, highlights how slow the magical world is to react to such dangers. The hesitation to take action or confront the issue head-on reinforces the idea that the magical world is governed by fear rather than rationality. Despite the dire consequences of this approach, one cannot ignore the potential benefits that could arise from loosening the strictures surrounding magic. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Harry learns that it is possible to alter the course of events through the careful use of magic, particularly in the realm of healing and protection. The idea that magic could be used to save lives, cure diseases, and transform society for the better is evident in the small examples scattered throughout the books. Yet the overwhelming restraint placed on its use suggests that the fear of what might happen if magic were to be freely accessible to all is too great a concern for the wizarding world to overcome. The mystery of magic in the Harry Potter universe, therefore, lies not just in the wonders it can achieve, but in the limitations imposed upon it. The wizarding world's reluctance to use its magic for the greater good, to transcend the boundaries of secrecy, and to confront the inherent dangers of unchecked power, reveals a society that is still grappling with its own moral compass. In the end, it is not just the fear of what magic can do that restrains its use, but the fear of what wizards and witches might become if they allow themselves to be guided solely by their own desires and ambitions. Number 25. The Philosopher's Stone. Why did no one think of selling it? In the world of Harry Potter, the Philosopher's Stone is a symbol of immense power, granting the ability to create the elixir of life, which in turn offers immortality. Its existence is crucial to the plot of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and yet one detail always stands out. Despite its undeniable value, no one seems to seriously consider selling it. For such a remarkable artifact, the stone could have been the solution to countless problems. It could have healed the sick, helped the needy, or even stopped the rise of evil. Yet it is kept secret, locked away, and guarded by magic as though its very nature would destroy the world if it were to fall into the wrong hands. The fact that Nicholas Flamel, the stone's current keeper, opts to keep it hidden raises many intriguing questions. Flamel's decision to not sell the Philosopher's Stone seems curious, especially when one considers the power and potential it holds. He is aware of the extraordinary benefits it could provide, not only to himself but to others as well. The elixir of life could, in theory, end all suffering, eliminating sickness, aging, and death, and yet Flamel refuses to use the stone for the greater good, stating, "I cannot use the stone for the benefit of all. It is too dangerous." This comment holds significant weight because it hints at an underlying truth about the nature of the stone and the complexities surrounding its powers. Nicholas Flamel is not just any wizard. He is an ancient figure in the magical world, known for his brilliance and longevity thanks to his careful stewardship of the Philosopher's Stone. In Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Flamel explains that he and his wife, Perenelle, have lived for centuries thanks to the elixir of life. They are not immortal because of some biological miracle, but rather because of the stone's ability to prevent aging. However, their immortality is not without cost. Flamel is aware of the dangers of the stone's power and chooses to keep it hidden to prevent its abuse. The question of why Flamel doesn't sell the Philosopher's Stone becomes even more puzzling when one considers the larger context of the wizarding world. The magical society is rife with injustice, poverty, and suffering. The stone could, in theory, end many of these afflictions. It could fund hospitals, cure incurable diseases, and ensure that no one ever has to face the pain of aging or loss. Yet Flamel's refusal to distribute the elixir of life raises the uncomfortable question: could there be something inherently wrong with such a power? One possibility is that Flamel, as a man who has lived for centuries, has seen the destructive consequences of power in the wrong hands. In Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, it is made clear that the stone is not just a tool for extending life, it is a symbol of immense magical power. There are those who would stop at nothing to get their hands on it, including Lord Voldemort. Voldemort, in his quest for immortality, is willing to kill, deceive, and manipulate anyone in his path. Flamel, having lived for so long, understands the dangers of such ambitions and the impact they can have on the world. By choosing not to sell the Philosopher's Stone, Flamel is protecting it from those who would misuse it. In Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Flamel warns Harry, Ron, and Hermione that the stone is not something that should be trifled with. It is not just an object of great power, but an object that could corrupt anyone who seeks to possess it. Flamel's decision to keep the stone hidden is an attempt to prevent the misuse of its power. In the hands of a wrongdoer, the Philosopher's Stone could be a tool for tyranny, not healing. There is also the question of morality and the idea that immortality, in the end, is not something to be coveted. Throughout the series, J.K. Rowling explores the theme of death and the natural cycle of life. Harry Potter himself is forced to confront death in ways that many people never do. The idea that the Philosopher's Stone could grant immortality to its possessor challenges the natural order and forces one to question whether immortality is truly a blessing or a curse. In Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, when Harry asks Flamel why he doesn't continue to use the stone, Flamel's response is telling, "I have lived too long. It is not a gift that I desire." This reflects a profound understanding of life and death that Flamel has gained over the centuries. Even with such knowledge, Flamel's reluctance to sell the stone or share its benefits shows a deeper understanding of human nature. The elixir of life does not guarantee happiness or fulfillment. In fact, it can lead to an existence of endless repetition, one without purpose or meaning. In the world of Harry Potter, many of the most powerful characters, such as Voldemort, are driven by a desire to extend their lives and gain power at any cost. Their obsession with immortality often leads to their downfall. Flamel, aware of this, chooses to limit the stone's influence, perhaps recognizing that life's true value lies not in its length, but in its depth. In this sense, Flamel's decision to protect the Philosopher's Stone is an act of wisdom. While the stone could provide countless benefits, its power is too dangerous to be freely distributed. As Flamel himself states, it is too dangerous to use for the good of all. This sentiment echoes throughout the series, where the characters are constantly reminded that the pursuit of power, especially the power to control life and death, can be corrupting. In the case of the Philosopher's Stone, its very nature seems to require restraint, not because of its inherent evil, but because of the potential for misuse by those who fail to understand its true consequences. The stone, by its very existence, serves as a symbol of the complex relationship between magic and morality in the wizarding world. It is a powerful tool, but like all power, it must be wielded carefully. If it were to fall into the wrong hands, it could easily become a weapon of destruction rather than a tool for healing. Flamel's decision to keep it hidden, despite its potential to change the world, serves as a reminder that some powers, no matter how beneficial they may seem, come with consequences that are too great to ignore. In the end, Flamel's choice not to sell the Philosopher's Stone is not a decision born out of selfishness or greed, but rather out of a deep understanding of the potential dangers that accompany such immense power. He recognizes that immortality, while tempting, is not a gift to be taken lightly. And while the stone could certainly be used to help others, its power is too volatile to be entrusted to anyone who might not understand the responsibility it entails. For Flamel, the Philosopher's Stone represents not just an opportunity to live forever, but a reminder of the importance of wisdom, restraint, and the understanding that some things are better left untouched. Thus, the mystery of why the Philosopher's Stone was never sold or used for the benefit of all is not so much about the limitations of magic, but about the limitations of human nature. The stone's power is both a blessing and a curse, and Flamel's decision to keep it hidden is a profound commentary on the dangers of unchecked ambition and the importance of knowing when to say no to power.